Luke would like to share about your thoughts about this RAM trading.
Yeah, it's a really complicated topic actually, because it's not like a normal market where you'd have just, a buyers and sellers as you'd expect. There's a limited supply of RAM. And so they have something called the Bancor protocol. It's just Bancor relay that essentially makes a market maker situation where they set the price and they kind of allow people that want to buy into that price to have liquidity. Unfortunately, and Dan just posted about this today, it might be yesterday your time, I guess, depending on how that works out. Yeah. That there was it sounds like there was a problem with the way it was actually configured. It was supposed to, a certain setting was supposed to be 50%, turned out to be 0.5%, and so, or 0.05%. So there are some issues with how things have been working as far as the RAM price in this market and whether it's been functioning the way it was designed to function. So there's been a lot of speculation. You have a lot of people buying up RAM in ways that they're not even using it. And so to kind of back up a little bit, what the RAM is used for, what it's important for on the EOS blockchain is to be able to do airdrops. So if you want to give someone a token, they need to have RAM on their account to store that token. And if you want to do an application that wants to store data that you need to view in your application, data that you can't query the entire blockchain to calculate in real time because it would be too slow and use up too much CPU, then you have to store it in RAM. And so as RAM gets really expensive, it becomes very difficult for application developers to build useful applications.
Great. DaFeng, would you like to share your thoughts?
Right. So actually, there's a recent change that drastically reduced the price of RAM, and I think that is a very new update. And but RAM price will, I think, in the long run will continue to go up because it's always a finite resource, and it's limited by how much it's a physical limit of the servers. So there's only so much RAM you can put in one single server. But I think in the long term solution will be dApp developers, they need to architect their dApp so that it's more memory efficient and use as little RAM as possible. And for us, when we did one of our apps, we have a use case. When we have to store a massive amount of data, and so instead of storing them in memory, in the main chain, we actually created a second layer chain to store that piece of data. So I think dApp developers will have to consider their architecture and see what can be fit in the RAM of the main chain. And I think second way to solve it, which Dan touched it in the last conference call with all the VPs, is in the long term, there will be many side chains, and these side chains, since each chain has a finite RAM, but we can create many side chains that will increase the total supply of the RAM across the entire network. So I think in the future, there's just going to be a lot of side chains.
How about Denny? Any thoughts on?
Yes, I think definitely is right, because when RAM price going up, we will have too many. But in long term, we will have many side chains. But for now, in long terms, the RAM price will still going up. So I think it's time to figure out how can we make the RAM price just keep very in the place and make everybody can predict how much is 1 KB of the price of RAM. So maybe we need to make them say, wait, when the price is going up, we add some RAM or find some way to make the price going down. That's what I think about. But in long term, of course, I agree with DaFeng, too many side chains to solve this problem.
And Ross, any thoughts?
I think that when Block.one were developing the EOSIO platform, they recognized that there was going to be this rare resource, which is RAM, finite resource, and that's the reason why they decided to actually create this market. Started off with really good intentions. Obviously, what's happened of late is the speculators have got on and they started buying up RAM, making a big land grab, and probably affecting the guys that actually really need to use the RAM. I think we've already sold like 54 gigs when I last saw, and I think there's only a few gigs that have actually been used. Yeah. But on the lines of what the other guys have just said, now there are a few interesting little solutions that have come out in maybe the last 12 hours. The first one was obviously Dan saying that yeah, there was a weight change to the Banco algorithm that he needs to do. And I had a good laugh about it because as he releases that statement, immediately the price of RAND drops. Yeah, so he wants to adjust it to 0.05% to prevent some of the slippage. And you know, the way I understand it, it's going to give it a bit of a slow moving buffer. He also said that you know, maybe we should be increasing the RAM week by week, month by month, or whatever it is at a specific rate. Obviously, that'll create a greater amount of RAM for the market and maybe keep the price a little bit more stable. But you know, we can't go crazy with suddenly saying everybody needs 2 terabytes of RAM inside all their nodes. It'll be nuts. But something that he mentioned in his article that was really, really interesting, and I'll be honest, as far as myself not being a hardcore developer, maybe coding a bit smarter, that maybe we could use SSD, maybe we can use Optane, some kind of a high performance storage mechanism that isn't RAM, that can scale to, you know, multiple terabytes, somehow managing the actual state database a little bit better. That could really give a lot more of a amount of RAM available to anybody that wants to develop on the EOSR platform.
Yeah, I remember seeing a Telegram chat from somebody. He's saying that why is the RAM more expensive than, you know, going to Best Buy? You know, somewhere you can. It will definitely be more expensive than that. I mean, I have to guarantee that, because that you know, every piece of data that's stored in RAM is replicated across all the servers of BPs, of full nodes, and it's very, very expensive. But you know, right now it's hyper volatile because of speculation and all this.